how to run a business effectively. The execution, Patrick Lencioni says smart and healthy. So smart is the finance and the strategy, but the healthy is getting the people working together effectively, and they don't teach the execution part well. And that's why I'm so passionate about EOS, is we're just absolutely obsessed with excellent execution in the simplest possible way. So speaking of keeping it simple, one thing that you see in the news a lot these days is getting more sleep. So how many of y'all get less than 7 hours sleep a night? A lot of people, yes. Well, unfortunately, I just found out I have sleep apnea, and so I got the machine, and all of a sudden, I'm like, man, I'm awake in the morning. It's really cool. And but your brain, it cleanses when you sleep, and so there's actual research. You don't have as many creative ideas. You're not as clear, and if you ask your family and friends, you're probably not as much fun. So I want to show you, running a business can be one of the contributing factors. Some of y'all may have family and kids as well, but that can be one of the factors that cuts in your sleep. So I want to help show you how to get more sleep, but no sleeping during my talk. That won't be part of the, okay, so I'm using the right button. Okay, so our agenda today is 3 things. The tagline for my company is Real Simple Results, and that's kind of our agenda for today. So the first is just to get real about what it's really like to be an entrepreneur. I did corporate life in big companies, and I was like, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to be in charge of my fate. It's going to be tiptoe through the tulips. I'll work with great people, and no stress, and it'll be wonderful. Well, guess what? It didn't turn out that way, because I didn't know how to have an effective operating system for my business. So we want to get real about what actually goes on and how to fix it. And while we're on the subject of what actually goes on, a lot of people are like, well, I can get by because I can multitask. Not to ruin your day, but if you look at the latest research, your brain can only do one thing at a time. So if you think you're multitasking, really your brain is trying to do one thing while it's juggling the other one in the background, and you're actually less effective. So there's no shortcut. You want to focus and do one thing at a time. So the first thing is just getting real about what it's really like in an entrepreneurial company. The second is simple. I do have a red dot. And so, as I said, EOS is focused on what are the absolutely simplest tools that you can use to run your business. So the book, Traction, which you'll see here, is written by a guy named Gino Wickman. And he's a little bit ADD, in fact, probably a lot ADD, so he was absolutely obsessed with how to make it as simple as possible. But that's really the beauty of it, because simple is where it's really at. So Einstein actually said that simple is the 5th level of intellect, beyond brilliant and beyond genius. So a lot of people say, oh, this looks simple, I can, that's not hard. Simple is not easy. You got to work at it because you got to focus. So as I discuss aspects of EOS, I'm going to keep saying we want you to focus, set priorities, less is more. How do you make this simpler? And that's a constant question. How do you make this simpler? So that'll be a recurring theme. And the last is results. So, we want you to have a better life, but we also want you to get better results for your business. So we're really very focused on what are the levers in your business that get you better results. Some people want more revenue. Some people don't want a bigger business. They just want more profit. And some people want more free time for family. So whatever results are your metric for success, that's what we want to get you to. So it's all about what is it really like, how do you make it simple, and how do you get results. So that's what we're focused on. So what gets in the way of having a great life and having fun? So there's 5 frustrations that most entrepreneurs experience. So, as I hit on these, y'all can confirm whether you have ever experienced any of these. I think I fell in all these holes myself. So the first one is control. everybody thinks, okay, I have financial statements, so I know what's going on. But that's really, if you're driving a car, that's the rear view mirror. Because you get your financial statement after the end of the month, and it tells you what happened. So if something went wrong January 10th, you may not see it in your financial statement till February 15th or even March 1st. And you can't really fix it then. So we want you like a jet pilot in the cockpit looking forward. So if you have numbers that tell you just the same way a jet pilot knows his computer or her computer tells that you when you're going to land and where you're going to land, we want you to have those same kind of controls, and so that you know where you're going and you know what the levers are to control your business. For me, I didn't have that. I couldn't just look at a scoreboard or go into a meeting and find that out. Do y'all all feel like, does any of this resonate with you? So the first challenge is control. The second challenge is profit. Usually there's not enough. So how do you focus on what do you adjust to get more profit? The next, this one just about everybody has, the people. So do you have the right people for your business? Somebody, you may have had a friend that was great, a great college roommate or a great neighbor, but they come into your business and they're not a fit for what you need. So the question, and then the question is, do we avoid those issues and delay? And what do we tolerate? And then the last is, how do your people interact? Because we want healthy, open, and honest conversation. You got to have a well-functioning team, and then problems get solved. So that's the third one. The fourth one is what we call hitting the ceiling. There's always, it happens in children. They get to a certain age, they're trying to walk, they get stuck, they get frustrated. They get to the next age, they're trying to read, they're trying to go to school. There's new challenges. In your business, it might be new technology, new competitors, new hires that trying to manage more people. And so it just is a natural occurrence that people get stuck. So we try to show people how to get unstuck. And I'll give you a hint, simple. Keep asking yourself, how do I make this simpler? Is always part of the answer. And the last one is the frustration is nothing's working. So you're having a bad day, things are out of control. You read an article about sleep and you're like, okay, I'm going to leave the office early and I'm going to sleep. Or you read one about OKRs and you're going to have a scoreboard. And so it looks like a great idea as a standalone, but you don't have a system for keeping it going and rolling it down through your organization. So your people get where they've seen flavor of the month, and then they don't buy in, and that's a challenge. So you don't want to get stuck in the flavor of the month. So you've got all these frustrations, and the sad thing is about 60% of businesses that start up go out of business in the first 5 years because of these frustrations. So EOS is focused. EOS is Entrepreneurial Operating System. So an operating system is how you manage your execution, your human energy in the most efficient way possible to get results. And that's what we focus on. So I keep saying the simple thing, you've heard that. So that's where we start. So what Gino discovered, and it makes sense if you think about it, those frustrations are symptoms of 136 real issues in most businesses. And if you can solve those problems at the root that causes those issues, then those problems will go away. Those frustrations will go away. So what Gino concluded, and it makes a lot of sense to me, is that weakness in 6 key components of your business are what create the 136 problems. So if you strengthen the 6 components, so if you turn to page 3, so if you want to take notes, this is the EOS model. So this is the 6 key components. So I'm going to do this at a high level and give you a feel for this. So there's 6 components of your business. And if you see the whole EOS model, there's 2 tools for each component. Given the time today, I don't have time to go through them all. Some of them are in your workbook, and I'll point them out to you. But I'm going to show you the two most popular tools to give you a flavor for how it works and how simple it is. But first, at a high level, I'll go through the 6 key components of your business. So the first one we talked about is people. So how do you decide who is the right fit for you? Not for somebody else's business, not necessarily, it may not be smart, it may be people that get things done. Some people are, you have people that do renovations, so some people that work well in a team may be better than somebody might be really mathematical, but they can't work with a team, or they can't meet deadlines. So who are the right people for you? Generally, you have somebody in your business, and it's what is it about them? If you could clone them, if you could have 10 of them, what is that? What defines a great person for you? Mm-hmm. So getting the right people, not ignoring issues, and the third thing is having a healthy leadership team, or really all your teams, all your departments, where they're open and honest discussing what's going on, raising issues, so you're not having sidebar conversations and a lot of stress in the office. So the first component is people. The second component is vision. So the vision is really at 2 levels. And I don't know how many of y'all have a written strategic plan, even 1 or 2 pages? Good, very good. A lot of people don't do it, honestly. Mm-hmm. I had an MBA, I had a budget, but I didn't have a written, bad on me. But a lot of people don't do it. I mean, I had been in consulting, we wrote 200-page plans. I'm like, give me a break, it gives me a headache. And so people don't do it. So we'll get to our plan, I'll show you that as an example. We have a 2-page strategic plan that covers the key things you need to communicate to your team. So the first level is, does the founder or owner have a clear idea where they're going? Some of y'all have plans in place, so maybe you do. But the second, when I meet with clients and I say, okay, everybody rate, how clear are you on the plan of where the company's going and how it's going to get there? The CEO raises their hand, yeah, we're clear. Everybody else crickets, because the CEO has never shown it or discussed it with anybody, but he thinks they just somehow know. And that wastes energy. People want to know. Millennials want to join companies that have a purpose, that are going somewhere. But really, everybody does. Even people pouring concrete, they want to know, what's a good day? Where are we going? Are we going to have cooler trucks? Are we going to be more environmental? What can I tell my kids about what I'm doing? Or what big project are we going to work on? So everybody at every level is more effective when they know the big picture. And so that's what you want, is the vision piece. The next piece is data. So, and this is not a gotcha culture, this is not a micromanager, I'm going to catch you doing something wrong. The point is, going back to the looking out the front of the cockpit, what are the numbers? What are the 5 to 15 numbers for your company that tell you you're on track? For some people, it's sales appointments. For some people, it's quotes generated. For some people, it's closes. If you have sales activity, it might be, are you getting referrals? If you have a production aspect, are projects getting completed on time? Or is scrap too high? What are the key? You don't want too many. Some people have 80 numbers on their scorecard. That's crazy. Keep going for simple. But what are the numbers that really tell you, that you can look at on a weekly basis, and you can tell if the plane is going to land in Detroit on time? I'm going to Detroit this afternoon. Or if it's going to land in Minneapolis. Or it may not go anywhere past, there's a snowstorm somewhere. I may end up in Atlanta. So what are the key numbers for you to know what you're looking out the front? And the second is, how does it make it easy for somebody to do their job? So take a dermatology practice, if you're having Botox or something discretionary. The history is, if you get that client to set up an appointment before they ever leave the office, your revenues and your client retention is going to go up significantly because they don't have to think about it. My hairdresser books my whole year, so he doesn't have to spend any time. He does it once a year, and I'm there. I'm booked. He doesn't have to. I'm not changing it. I schedule to his schedule. And so something like that, think about in your business. What can you ask a salesperson? Are you asking for referrals? For the office staff, you should have a scoreboard and say, does everybody that leaves here, have they already set their appointment for the next time? Have give away a fruity sandwich bar, or a Walmart card or whatever, but make it fun. And then you've got people chasing clients down in the parking lot and saying, hey, Catherine, you forgot to book your appointment.
What was the, if you were outlining, you said something at the beginning of this part after the what key numbers, and you talked about that, and then this section, there was a way you described these numbers, like this data, like making it fun.
Well, making it fun and forward-looking.
Forward-looking.
Forward-looking. So your financials are looking out the rearview mirror.
So you want leading indicators.
Leading indicators. But things that you can affect now, overtime, absences, not booking return appointments, because you won't see that hit your revenue until the next month. But if you can look now, and plus you can make it easy. Like I used to work with electricians, and we used to tell them just bill more. And then we started breaking it down and saying, okay, when you give a quote, what percentage of your quotes do the clients say, I want you to do the work? And then we could say, okay, we need to coach you on that. And then they could they're like, okay, that's good, and help me. So at a high level, you want to know what numbers give you that looking out the front windshield like a pilot. At the next level, you want to make it easy for your people to know what numbers. So did that help?
Yeah, that make it easy.
Yeah, so they can see it. So what's going on? So that's the data part. So not a gotcha culture. You're coaching, you're showing them, and you're getting them excited. Hey, let's celebrate. Everybody gets lunch. One friend of mine, she's in a competitive industry, and she said, I want to pay everybody more, but I can't do it because I can't raise prices. Let's work on reducing scrap. And they reduced scrap so much that she's down in South Georgia, they were able to pay more and take everybody to Disney World.
Wow.
So make it simple for them, but make it fun. Always try to fun. So the next thing is issues. That doesn't sound like very important, but the first thing is being willing to acknowledge that you have issues. And so you just say, okay, something's going on. An issue can be a good thing. Maybe people love a new product. Maybe there's a certain sandwich that everybody loves and you're selling out of it, or you don't have. Popeyes had that new spicy chicken sandwich. They forgot to check and make sure they could get enough of that size chicken. And so everybody's mad. So the first part is willingness to acknowledge that you have issues. And some people, the most powerful question you can ask at any level when you're walking around in your business is what's working, what's not working. Because the people on the front line, there's a lot of wisdom out there. And if you find out quickly, before everything goes off the rails, then you can save money. You might be able to, you might have gotten more chicken supply. If they start selling those chicken sandwiches and they're flying out, it's like, hey, do we have enough of this chicken? I don't see any more in the freezer. What are we going to do about that? So there's wisdom in the front line. So you want to have communication at every level. You don't want it just to be the CEO or the senior management dictates down. You want the information flowing up as well. So the first level of issues is recognizing that you have issues. The second level is actually solving issues. Now, a lot of people, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on our meeting format, but we really teach our clients how to have an effective meeting. And the most important thing with issue solving is make your point in one sentence and make whatever recommendation you have, say it one time and you don't repeat. So you're actually having a productive conversation about solving issues. And people are like, oh, my people are sensitive, I can't do that. We give them a squirrel. And we say, if somebody's going off on a tangent, if we're talking about sales and all of a sudden the CEO is talking about the Christmas card or the stationery, you get to say squirrel. The squirrel is out, let's stop the squirrel, put that on the list, we'll do that tomorrow. The issue we need to solve today is this. I've had clients where the CEO goes, my team is sensitive, we can't do that. I bring the squirrel and that thing is flying across the table in the first 2 minutes. People love stopping these boring meetings. And they actually want to solve problems. And you're teaching your team, we're talking about having to do everything yourself. You're teaching your team how to solve problems because you're doing it together. And you're thinking about how to solve an issue. So identifying issues and actually solving them and making them go away forever. So how do you solve it? How do you, there's more subtlety around how do you make sure you have agreement in the room that people aren't covering over. I'm giving you the high level today. There's more detail behind it. But solving issues is huge. And having the communication up and down. But people love throwing the squirrel. The other one we have, if people are repeating, is a dead horse. So that people are like, knock over that horse. Because the horse is just dying. And people love to call that out. They love to have permission to have an effective meeting. So the next component is process. So this is not making ISO 9000 manuals for everything. But it's, some of y'all are founders of your business. So how many of y'all are like, nobody else can do it the way I do it? Anybody have that? Or here, the other one is, my good customers want me because they know. So when you have that issue, it is, first of all, stressful, but you can't scale. So what we recommend is figure out the key processes, and usually there's 5 or 7. We're not talking about everything. And at a high level, what are the key steps? So like for hiring, first you'd interview, then you do a background check, then you do maybe interview challenge questions to see if they exhibit your values. High level, a 2-page summary for a process. And then you document it, and then you have a value for training that everybody does your key processes the same way. And then it doesn't have to be you, because you know that Catherine is going to do the same job that you would do, and Catherine might figure out some stuff to bring back. So it's a cycle. This doesn't happen in a day. If your name is on the front door, you're not going to be able to transition your biggest clients. But if you know the process, you document it and train it, and then you're coaching your people, and you have a value that everybody does it the same way, huge. So Four Seasons Hotel is very well run and has incredible experience. I don't go there a lot, but every time I've ever been there, it's just fabulous. So the founder of Four Seasons has a saying, systemize the predictable to humanize the exceptional. So people know, they don't trip over their feet coming to greet you. They know the basics of how to put your information in the computer, how to get your room service. But if you've got a problem, they're ready to help you. So this is huge, especially for smaller companies and founders. I'm not saying just hand it off, don't care, but document your process, explain to people why you do it the way you do. Put it in your scorecard so you can see that things are on track, projects are on time, you're getting referrals, the revenues are coming. You need to coach and watch, but if you don't get this right, you're never going to scale. And you're probably not going to get 7 hours of sleep either. So this is one of the most the weakest that people overlook because they think it's boring. And I'm not talking about an ISO. You know, your process manual might be 20 pages, but everybody trains on it. Everybody knows this is how we do it. And that's a huge leverage point. And the last piece, so it's not by accident, vision is at the top and traction is at the bottom, because vision without traction is hallucination. So if I say, okay, here's where we're going to go, how are we going to get there? And more important than that, the research is that most people on a quarterly basis don't know, and this is IBM anywhere, most people don't know the most important, 2/3 of the people don't know the most important priorities in their job to advance the vision this quarter. They probably got 30 things that might be important, but they don't know the 3 that they really need to go. So we have a concept called rocks, and I'll come back to that. Rocks are the big things that move the dial. So we say do the big rocks first, put those in first. So the first thing is creating clarity every quarter. If you just do the vision and you put it on a shelf and nobody looks at it, 90 days nobody remembers. It starts to fall apart. So here's a workbook. So you can take notes. So the first part of traction is 90-day priorities and clear accountability. And the second piece of traction is having a good meeting pulse. So that we recommend leadership teams meet every week. So they do issue processing. They update not just on every single thing that's happening, but what's important for people to know. And then they solve issues. But you're connecting the team. You're not having to have 30 ad hoc meetings because you know there's going to be an hour and a half every week where the whole team's going to get together. So we start with the leadership team doing that. When the leadership team gets really good, then we move it down. So in the renovation business, your teams might have a 10-minute or 5-minute stand-up before a shift. Here's what we're going to do. Here, materials are coming at this time. We're short this. We have to wait on that. But just getting everybody in a mode that works for them. So this is the whole process. And I told you that our thing is simple. So we teach this in what we call a phased process. So don't worry, we don't try to do all this at once. We break it down for you. We have a lot of experience. What do you do first? What do you do second? EOS is usually a 2-year journey. Some people go faster. But to get all these things strengthened, it usually takes about 2 years. So just reemphasizing, vision without traction is hallucination. And so on this model, our goal is to get you to 80% strong on all of these. And but that's generally a 2-year journey to get all the way there. Most people, and I don't care if it's venture capital backed, private equity, who it is, most people are bad all over the world in execution. So most people start out at 20%. They don't solve issues well. They have the wrong people, but they're not doing anything about it. They don't have clear scorecards. The people on the front line, they don't know. We want them to go home, hair on fire. Boy, I killed it this week. We are good. My team is good. I'm learning stuff. The bosses are listening to me. Aren't we having fun? But most people don't experience that. They're just told, go do it. No support, not clear what to do. I mean, like I used to tell the electricians, bill more. And then I broke it down. And we had the manager coaching them. And all of a sudden, they're calling us saying, all right, where's my numbers? Am I doing better? And we weren't even doing a bonus. But we made it easy for them to see, and they wanted to do well. And they had a coach that was supporting them. So that's where you want to get to. So, as I said, there's a lot behind this, and in about 40 minutes or so, I can't cover all of it. There's a book and more to tell you, but I just want to kind of give you a feel for the big picture. I'm going to dive into 2 tools. For all of these components, there's generally 2 tools to make to strengthen those components. And so the two most popular are our vision, so I'm going to show you that, and then a tool we call the People Analyzer. So I'm going to, oops, I just killed it. There we go. So if you turn to page 3 and 4 in your book, this is what we call the 8 questions. And this is the simplest planning document you will ever see. So this is the whole plan. It's 2 pages. So the first page, it says vision at the top. So this is your big picture. And the second page is the traction page. So this is your 1-year plan and your 90-day plan and the issues that you're going to solve. So this is the whole thing. But this is one place where Gino did great work of saying, what is the simplest approach? What are the fewest things that you need to get clear on to help your business run better? And the other thing is, when you're putting together a business, do you ever have that feeling that there's a whole pile of issues? There's information. What am I going to do on my marketing? What's my target market? What kind of people do I need? What's special about us? How do I explain to people what we do? You got all that stuff rolling around your head. When you get this get it out of your head and get it written down, it's just like, whew. I mean, I've done this. If you have a team, you want to develop this with your team. You don't want to impose it on them. But if you're a founder, or I've done this where you're working pretty much alone, or I've done this with small nonprofits where the leader has done this and then she gets it out of her head and shows it to her board at a strategic level, and all of a sudden they're wow, because the whole conversation goes up a level. So here are the key components of what we call the Vision Traction Organizer. Whoops, sorry. So the first is core values. So that's what kind of person do you need for your business? So, in renovation, you need teamwork. A lot of people want people that are learners, that you don't want people that just say that's the way we've always done it. You may have a really technical business where you need people that really are more siloed and just want to do analysis. If you go to Chick-fil-A, obviously they're all about the customer experience. So the question is, of the people you have, who would you kill to have 10 more of, and what do they like? So it's just what kind of person supports the kind of business you're in. Is it customer service? Is it learning? Is it technology? Some places there's a value of just, if you're doing software and it's changing every day, some places the value is just, we go fast. So what is the core value? So the first thing, and I've seen this, I was in a peer group, we had 20 core values. Nobody can remember 20, and there's only 3 to 5 really make a difference. So pick the ones that really are distinctive for you, and then people can remember them. And you want to hire and fire on those, advertise them, put them on your website. Millennials, but really everybody wants to know what kind of company, what do you do? What would it be like to be there? What will I fit in? And if you have 3 to 5, it's clear, and it forces you, going back to simple, what are the ones that really matter? So we push you to have 3 to 5, not 20. And I'll tell you, I'm guilty, I had 20. Core focus is 2 things. What are you passionate about, and what are you good at? People want to know there's a bigger purpose. You don't have to be saving the world. If you're doing a laundry service, you're helping mothers have quality time with their children, or increasing family bonding. And most people are doing it for something like that. It doesn't have to be everything nonprofit. Better safety. I worked with electricians, and they were like, we do it right, because some people take shortcuts. So what do you want to do? So what are you passionate about? And that makes your business more attractive. And the second is, what is your niche? You know, are we really good at a certain kind of digital marketing? Are we really good at a certain kind of software, a certain kind of renovation? What is your niche? So this should be a filter. So you're not trying to do everything. You're saying, what are we really going to go after? So the 10-year target, sometimes it's 5 years, sometimes it's 20 year. What gets you excited? When Nike started out and they were two guys with a couple of pairs of shoes in the trunk, their big goal was crush Adidas. It was two guys, and they did crush Adidas. So when EOS started out 10 years ago, we had served about 95 companies, and they said our 10-year target is to have 10,000 companies running on EOS that we coached. Well, guess what? We're on track. Now imagine at 90, they said 10,000, but that got us motivated. How are we going to reach people? How are we going to find coaches? How are we going to make that happen? So for your business, if you want to be the biggest in Atlanta, or the leading supplier, or the best at a certain technology, if that's your big goal to get everybody excited, then what do you have to do? So, and what is that? Some people it's just a number, but if it can be something about the best of, or dominate a market, or the leading supplier of X, that gets people more excited. So what's the purpose of this is to motivate yourself and your team. So the next thing is the marketing strategy. So a lot of y'all have marketing strategies written down. So this is where we tried to say, what are the key things? So this first part is the target market, what we call the list, so that you can sit down and say, this is what we go for. So what's the demographic, geographic, and psychographic profile of what you're going? So demographic might be size business, type of company. In the legal biz, you were talking about intellectual property and film. So what kind of industry would it be is demographic. Geographic, how far, what countries, what cities, what states. And psychographic, how do they think? Some people want value, some people want the cheapest supplier, some people are in media type things, they want the best look, you know, they want fashion forward. Some people don't want fashion forward. So how do the people that you're targeting, how do they think? So get those in your head. Now this other one, the 3 uniques, is what makes you the best in the world, in your world, at your particular business. And you know, this is where you really want to dig in and say, if I compare, why did I get that business last week? Why did I win that bid? Or why did I get this new client? Or why did the client leave? So a lot of times it's speed, or quality, or we listened better, we understood the real need, or we were able to, we didn't talk down to them. You know, in the legal business, some people are really annoying. The tax planning, you know, they're like, you need to listen in tax planning, because you know, what do they want to do? So what combination of factors makes you unique? And the next thing we recommend, proven process is just a way to communicate, usually a one-pager, that shows the company life cycle, so that you're showing them, when I do a renovation, here's what I do. I check all the permits, I check all the environmental, I do the work, and then I come back with the homeowner and I make sure if there's any punch list or any items. So it may not be obvious to somebody that when you meet them that you have that capability, but you're making yourself look more professional by you're showing them the whole process. And the fact, if you're going back and doing the processes the same way, you may have a follow-up process that they've never even seen before, or a QC process, so that you know you have a special check before you ship. So this is your opportunity to advertise how professional you are, to set yourself apart, that you've thought about it. And the last piece here is guarantee, and that's not necessarily a money back guarantee, but what makes it easier for your customers to use you. So Enterprise used to say, we'll pick you up. So hey, you didn't have to ask your wife or your neighbor, your husband to take you for a car repair. They'd pick you up. So here in Atlanta, there was an air conditioning company that used to advertise, I think now you can't do Freon, but 5 years ago they said free Freon if you need Freon. Well, what did that do? Number one, the people that held old systems would call them to save money. But the other thing that did is they had more of the older systems where instead of doing a $300 repair, they could sell a $10,000 system because by picking the right words, they attracted their real target customer. So what can you do to make it easier and to attract the people you want? So all this stuff, there's a lot of detail there, but all that stuff, when you get it out of your head and clarify it, your people ought to know what your uniques are. Because then don't mess that up. If on time is our thing, I'm the owner, call me at 5 o'clock on Friday. If it's a big customer, we gotta get it done. So there's a lot of value in getting clear on this, and it's a process. The 3-year picture is just if this is your long-term goal, this is your first pass at what's it really gonna be like. So does that 3-year picture, do you need to add an office? Are you gonna have 50 customers at $50,000 a piece? Are you gonna have 10 customers at $200,000 a piece? What's that gonna look like? What kind of training? So this is page 1 of your 2-page planner. So what are the key elements? So that's the vision page. The second page is the traction page, the execution. So here, this looks simple, but we're pushing you to say, what are the goals? So what's your revenue, profit, and measurables? And a measurable would be something like how many square feet, how many employees, how many SKUs, how many renovations, one key number. And then what are your 4 to 7 key themes or goals for the year? So again, simple, not 10, 3 or 4. So do you have goals for the year?
Yes.
Do other people?
Yes.
3, 10?
I have about 6.
That's good. That's good. That's good. So clarifying that, don't get too many. And the problem is if you have 10, usually there's 3 that are easy that don't really move the dial.
Mm-hmm.
And your people come back and say, we got these, we got 3 out of 5, but you didn't do the hard ones. So don't have too many so the hard ones get done. So this, I talked about that you want to have, if you just do an annual plan and you don't go back and look at it, so this is keeping that quarterly pulse going back and looking at the plan in 90 days. And so you do the same thing. So these are rocks or specific projects. You have 3 to 5 for the company, and then everybody on your leadership team has 2 to 3. So going back to that issue, most people don't know specifically what they need to do to move the vision forward. So that's where this comes in, is you get, sorry, I gotta stop playing with this. So rocks for the company and rocks for the people. So that it gets rid of that wasted energy.
So wait, will you explain rocks again?
Yeah, projects.
Your important projects.
It's like high focus areas.
Yeah.
Or like big bets.
Not things that are standing in your way.
Removing an obstacle, like if you were talking about interacting with your new assistant. So installing a CRM, that's a project that might remove an obstacle.
But it's a rock.
A rock is a big project that builds capability, and it's important. And a lot of times it's easy to get distracted by the urgent, like email, but the unimportant. And the rocks are the non-urgent but important. So it's a project. It's not a tomorrow kind of deadline. So that's where a lot of traction gets lost. And the last piece here for this is issues. So the issues that go on your VTO are what are the issues that you need to deal with that you're not going to deal with this quarter. So let's say you needed a new web page or you needed a new cloud software. You might say, okay, it's February now. You might say by the end of the year, I want to work on that, but this quarter, we've got to work on sales. So I'm going to put it, this is keeping it simple and keeping your brain not confused. So that you park it so you don't lose it, but you just don't deal with it right now. So I've gone through a lot, but if you really get all these ideas out of your brain and do it and then step away, like I said, if you have a leadership team, you don't want to do it in isolation and impose it on them. But let's see how we're doing here. Okay, so I'm getting close to wrapping up here. But that's what. But when you get it out of your head, then you kind of go, whew, all right, now let me look at it. So it's great to do it and then walk away and come back, talk to your team, talk to your investors, but get all that out of your head. And most entrepreneurs are carrying all this around in their head, and so that slows them down. So the two tools on vision. Number one is doing this with your team. The second thing is sharing it with everybody in the company, because to get them activated. Now, not everybody's going to share all the detailed financials. We encourage people to start with the values and the long-term big picture, something about revenues or states or the electricians. It was like, hey, we're going to get new trucks. So they were excited about that. So you don't necessarily share all the detail right away, but the more you can share over time, the better it is. So that's the vision component. The next piece that I want to share with you, because the other big issue is people. So everybody has people issues. So the key thing is getting the right people in the right seats. And we talked about the core values, defining those people. And we have a tool, so if you look on page 7, the people analyzer. And this is about the simplest way. So what's across the top here are your core values. And then down the left is the people. So the one big issue with people is we kind of know there's an issue, but oh man, I don't want to start down that. So what's the simplest way to say, does this person really exhibit our core values? So you take your team, if you're the CEO, it's your leadership team, if you're a department head, you write the names down the left, the values across the top, and we don't even do 1 to 10. We just do plus, they always have that value, minus, they never do, and plus minus, sometimes yes, sometimes no. And every quarter, just sit down and say, what do we got? And then you have a bar, which is what is your minimum acceptable. And generally, you don't want to have any minuses. If you've got somebody that never has your value, if you're a team player and that person never plays on the team, now you might, we're in a difficult economy. You might say, okay, I've got to get rid of Sally, but I'm not going to do it till the next quarter because I need her right now. You can separate the action from the conclusion. But don't, the whole I fell in, maybe some of you do, is because it's painful to address this, you just don't deal with it. And I had this last week. I had a client, we went over their company values. We had a quarterly meeting. We talked about their company values. We talked about examples of the values and how we can celebrate the values. They were having a company meeting to share the vision. And then they had department meetings and they sat down with their top salesman. And he was just like, okay, I'm not doing that, and I'm not doing that, and I'm not doing that. And they'd known for a while that they had a people problem, but they hadn't, and they kind of had done this, but they were kind of avoiding it because he was a high performer, but it just hit him right in the face. This guy, he's high maintenance. We can do better. He's going to slow us down in the long term. It may take them 3 to 6 months to actually make that move, but it just came and bit them right in the face. Now, the other part of this, and we're not going into a lot of detail, but you were asking me about getting clear job descriptions. And so if you look at page 8, what we say is get clear roles, and that I don't have time to go through that tool today, but clear roles. And then if you look at page 9, it's what we call GWC. So when you fully implemented this tool, in addition to the values here, you would have, do they get their job, do they want their job, and do they have the capacity to do it? So when you fully use this tool, you'd be rating them on the values and also, are they getting their job done? Same thing, plus, minus, not 1 to 10, but just don't avoid the issue. What's the simplest tool? And avoiding people issues. And a lot of these you can coach. If you're having good management discussions,